what is evolving, and there were examples of it that I heard today, was not necessarily the details of the job itself, but the understanding of how we define that individual, how we define the role and the characteristics of someone who is in charge of ethics and compliance of a given company, or just in general. But when we talk about this stuff, it's sometimes, it becomes this sort of jargon-laden, highly, professionalized component of a given company. We need this because we have to do X, Y, and Z to be able to get contracts, to be able to be part of the supplier value chain, and so on and so forth. And it loses a little bit of that human element that we have talked about a great deal. I think in many ways, this role, this evolution of understanding or defining what the role is in step with how business is trying to come out of its silo. For a very long time, when we look at the private sector and business, it was as if it was an entity of its own. This mothership UFO hovering around Earth, and there were people, and there's private sector functioning, and profits and balance sheets, and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's sustainable. And in fact, speaking of sustainability is not, in this day and age, about, again, profit margins and balance sheets. Yes, of course, it's at the end of the day, it is business. I do get that. I may be civil society, but I do understand, the concerns of business. The sustainability is now about reputation. It's about, we talked about earlier, you have one shop there and one shop there. Which one would you want to go to? Which one would you want to give your business to? The guy who smiles or the guy who curses at you? So all of these are kind of coming together. And for me, at the end of the day, at its very core, ethics and compliance is really the bond between the private sector and the society. The society in which it exists, practically, and also the larger society, whether or not the kind of work that they do, the services that they provide, the products that they come up with, whether or not it's for the consumption of, for domestic consumption or it's for international, it is becoming apparent that business has a role, a leading role to play in a given society. Pandemic was a perfect example of how business, private sector, has so many innovative solutions to the challenges that we're facing. But these challenges and solutions are not now just exclusive to business and private sector. These are solutions that helps the society as a whole to be able to overcome these challenges. And more leaders are emerging from the business world to go into politics. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing. You can decide yourself. But be that as it may, I think they are coming out of that silo, and I think this is a vehicle. In many ways, compliance and ethics is a vehicle to enhance the trust as these two entities, business and society, are coming together. And I think it's very important to have that human element there.
We'd like our panelists to consider that there is the most knowledgeable, most experienced, and the most trustworthy compliance person living in the world is talking about what should or what would companies operating in Turkey do in terms of ethics and compliance. What would you think this person to tell? Let's start with Vagif Bey, and then Vitor, and then at the end, we give the word to Babak.
Sure. I think that's an excellent question. But I would extend it beyond Turkey, Emre Bey, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Because I think, whatever advice there is for Turkey, it's equally good for the broader region. And I'm thinking in particular about Azerbaijan, since I'm from there. You know, I think, and the word I have in my mind is unite. You know, so many great people in this room, in this hall. You know, together we can make things happen. You know, TEID, Azerbaijan, ENC network. There's a reason, I think, why we get together. You know, we want to share learning. We want to share experiences, learn from each other, as we have done today, and then pave the way forward. You know, which is, you know, things are changing out there in the world, and more is expected from ENC. And if, you know, nobody out there tasks us, for example, in our organizations, for us to be doing things, well, there's no reason why we can't be proactive, right? I mean, I think it was Toro who mentioned earlier, you know, we can't tell IT folks cyber risk is for you. And same for crypto, ESG. You know, if we're united, if we look at things as a whole, you know, if we support each other, I think a lot can be achieved. And that, I think, is as good for Turkey and for ENC professionals in Turkey as it is for the ENC professionals in the broader region around Turkey.
Yes, actually in some of our countries, 98% of the business are small and medium-sized enterprise. And they have a very important portion of countries' economies. There's like, let's say the small companies are the backbone of the economy. And what we could realize in the monitoring work of our convention is that in contact with private sector and representatives from SMEs, is that in general, SMEs are not aware of their risks. And also, they don't have measures, anti-corruption measures in place. And look, I'm talking about measures. I'm not even talking about compliance programs. Because, again, small and medium-sized enterprise, they range from your local baker to a multi-million euro tech company. So your local baker, it's already the CEO, the CFO, the human resources, and chief compliance officer. So it would never think about implementing a program the way big companies do, but they have to have some measures in place to understand their risks. And also in some countries, and then we can talk about later, the collective action helped them to resist solicitation and some cases even duress. So what we realized in this last, talking about anniversaries, our convention will have its 25th anniversary next year. And during these 25 years of monitoring, we realized that our countries, we often recommended our countries, the working group on bribery often recommended the member countries to develop awareness-raising activities to small and medium-sized and medium enterprise. And these recommendations often were considered unimplemented. And the government authorities from our member countries would say, how can I do this? I tried all kinds of tools, but it's hard to reach out to them because it's such a big and diverse part of the economies. And to address this issue, last year, the OECD published a toolkit for raising awareness and preventing corruption in SMEs. The toolkit starts with the question of who should be the ones implementing these awareness-raising tools and strategies. And what was first idealized to be a tool for government authorities, we realized from the outside that this will never work. It should be a multi-stakeholder approach. It should involve government authorities, big companies, civil society, business organizations, and international organizations as well. Why? Because multi-stakeholders approaches, they provide for tailor-made, sector-specific, and resource-efficient strategies.